Hi everyone, this is Migs from Sneaks and Ball PH, and in honor of Kobe's enshrinement into the Basketball Hall of Fame, we'll be taking a look and ranking all of Kobe's signature shoes with Nike from 11 to 1. Before we get started, if you do like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments, questions, or any suggestions for future videos, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below as well. Then I'll also leave a link to the SNBPH Sneaker Hunters Facebook group down in the description box. So I really do hope that you can join us because we do talk about basketball quite a bit over there, and it's also where I hold my monthly giveaways. Then if you haven't already, please do make sure to sub to the channel because it really does help us out quite a lot. So with that out of the way, today is actually Kobe's enshrinement into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he will be going in there with the likes of Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan, who are some of the all-time greats of the game as well. And it is still pretty surreal and still really sad that Kobe's not here with us right now, and it would have definitely been really awesome having Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, and Kobe Bryant all with us at that point. But of course, you know, stuff happens, and Michael Jordan will be presenting him at the Basketball Hall of Fame, so I'm definitely gonna be listening in to see what MJ has to say about Kobe. Of course, being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, you kind of take a look back at his career. You know, Kobe had all of the accolades. He's the fourth on the NBA's all-time scoring list. He won 5 championships, 2 finals MVPs, 1 NBA MVP, which, you know, a lot of people argue should have been more, and is definitely right up there with all of the greatest players to play in the NBA. One of the major aspects of Kobe's legacy, though, are his sneakers, and you can see that every time you turn on an NBA game, there's more than just one player rocking Kobe shoes. And you have a lot of NBA stars that just wear Kobe's, like you have DeMar DeRozan, you have Devin Booker, you have Ja Morant. You know, there's just so many NBA players in the league today that just really looked up to Kobe, and it's safe to say that Kobe's Nike sneakers are definitely some of the most iconic of all time. So with that in mind, I decided to honor Kobe sneakers by ranking all of them from 1 to 11, and I'll be ranking them in terms of performance, but I guess at the end of the video, I'll also tell you how I feel about the aesthetics of all of these shoes. I do apologize though for not including any of the Adidas Kobe's and also the Nike Kobe shoes that came after his retirement because I just don't have those pairs in my collection. Although if you were wondering, my top 3 Adidas Kobe's would be the Adidas Crazy 97, the Adidas Kobe 1, and the Adidas Crazy 8. Then for the post-retirement Kobe's or the AD series of Kobe's, I definitely would have in my top 3 the Nike Kobe AD Exodus, the Kobe AD NXT Fast Fit, and the Kobe AD NXT 360 Flyknit. I hope I got that right, but those are my top 3 from his post-retirement. So there, just to clear everything up, I am just ranking the Kobe 1 to the Kobe 11. So with that, let's go. So for number 11, we do have the Nike Kobe 7, and it was a pretty comfy shoe because that cushion is pretty nice. You had that play fast drop in midsole with Phylon and 4-foot zoom. And you also had the play strong drop in midsole with full-length cushion. The traction was also okay, but the main problem of this shoe is that it just tears up your feet because of various hot spots on the shoe. And it was really just a shoe that looked so nice and felt comfortable when you were just standing around. But once you started moving and playing, you would get all sorts of blisters and a lot of pain in your feet. So yeah, for number 11, or like last place, you have the Nike Kobe 7. Then for number 10, we have the Nike Kobe 3. The Kobe 3 has always been a very interesting looking shoe, and it kind of stands out like a sore thumb when you compare it to other Nike Kobe signatures. But another reason why it's not remembered as fondly as the other ones is that it didn't really perform as well as the others. I mean, the cushion was pretty comfy. You did have full-length Phylon with a 4-foot end heel zoom unit, and the fit was actually pretty decent once you broke in this sort of like rubbery net looking material on the upper. But the traction on the Kobe 3 is really what lets the shoe down because it does have a pretty interesting looking traction pattern. It has this sort of old school waffle look. I'm not really sure why they went for a waffle sole because that is very 1960s or 1970s of them. But anyway, when you compare this to the rest of the Nike Kobe signature line, I think it's safe to say that the Kobe 3 has the worst traction. It doesn't tear up your feet though like the Nike Kobe 7s. That's why these are still above those at number 10. Then for the next shoe, we have the Nike Kobe 2 in 9. The Nike Kobe 2 is another very interesting member of the Nike Kobe family because for one, it had different versions. You had this version with laces and a strap, and then you had a fully strapped version. And it's also the first basketball shoe to use Nike Free. The Nike Free outsole and midsole was a pretty good idea because it was supposed to promote a lot of flexibility. The only problem with the shoe is that even though the tooling was pretty flexible and easy to maneuver in, the upper was a different story, and this whole collar area was a little bit restrictive, and it just really doesn't feel that good when you really start, moving around and running around because it just kind of chafes your ankle, so I really didn't find that very comfortable. The cushion also wasn't the best, but I guess they were going for that low to the ground feel. You do have zoom in the forefoot, although it's a little bit hard to feel it, and it fits pretty good too. It's just, this ankle area is just pretty uncomfortable, at least for me. So there you have it, the Kobe 2 in 9th. Then at number 8, we have the Nike Kobe 10. The Nike Kobe 10 definitely wasn't a bad shoe. It was actually a shoe that a lot of my friends had and a lot of them really liked. It's just that all of the other Kobes are better than this, which is why it's at 8th. But for the issues that I had with the Kobe 10, it was a little bit uncomfortable having this kind of dig into your pinky toe. Then I also really didn't appreciate that kind of fake mesh version because it kind of looked like it had mesh, but it was actually fused, and it was definitely a pretty cheap feeling material. So if you were to go for a pair of Kobe 10s, I'd definitely recommend you go for the Flyknit low version because I think it's definitely the best out of all three. For the positives on the Kobe 10, you actually had really good traction and pretty decent cushion because you had full-length Lunarlon and a very large zoom unit here in the heel. With the Flyknit version, it is so much more comfortable than the fake mesh version, and it also, in my opinion, fits better on your foot. So once again, we have the Kobe 10 in 8th because, they kind of used fake materials, at least on the basic version, and it really just kills your forefoot here at this side. Then moving on to number 7, we have the Nike Kobe 11. I did have a pretty hard time ranking the Kobe 11 because you did have two versions. Once again, you had the Kobe 11 EM as well as the Kobe 11 Elite with the Flyknit. The Kobe 11 EM is definitely much better in my opinion. You had a much better fit and you had way better traction as well. The Kobe 11 Elite was a little bit roomy, so you kind of had to go down half a size with that one. And since most of the Kobe 11 Elite colorways came with translucent rubber, it was a pretty slippery shoe. This is actually so bad that I think after the Kobe 3, the Kobe 11 Elite has the second worst traction of all the Nike Kobe. The EM versions though of the Kobe 11 do use more of a solid rubber outsole, but the problem with this is that even if it improved greatly on the Kobe 11 Elite's traction, it still definitely wasn't on the same level as some of the other Kobes higher on the list. The shoe does look really beautiful though, and the cushion is actually pretty nice. You have a full-length drop-in Lunarlon midsole for the Kobe 11 EM, while you have a similar drop-in Lunarlon midsole with the Kobe 11 Elite, but with an additional heel zoom unit. So once again, I have the Kobe 11 number 7, and it's just because, the Elite kind of drags down the EM quite a lot. Then for number 6, we have the Nike Kobe 5 Pro Throw. The Kobe 5 Pro Throw actually just lost out for number 5 by like a split decision, and it's pretty much just because of the materials and not necessarily the materials all over, but instead the materials on the toe. The Kobe 5 is an excellent shoe. You have pretty good traction, you have that really comfy cushion, especially in the Pro Throw version, and you do have that awesome Kobe-like fit that we've come to expect. It's just that way back when these were made, fuse was the thing, and it is an almost all fuse shoe, and it doesn't feel that comfy right away, and it does take a little bit of time to break that fuse in. Once you do break it in though, it is a superb shoe. This is the Pro Throw version, so it was upgraded with that full-length cushion and that zoom turbo in the forefoot that gives you that super bouncy feeling. Once again, we do have the Nike Kobe 5 Pro Throw in number 6, and it's definitely not in 6th because it's not a good shoe, because this is an all-time great shoe. It's just that there are so many awesome Kobes to play in, and I really just had to split hairs with this one. Then for number 5, we have the Nike Kobe 4 Pro Throw. I did mention that it was a super close call between the 6th and the 5th shoe, and the only reason I put the Kobe 4 ahead of the Kobe 5 is because the forefoot on the Kobe 4 makes use of this sort of synthetic leather and only uses fuse here at the midfoot. That synthetic here at the forefoot does break in a lot easier and a lot better, and of course it will show creases like how my pair is, but that means that it is pretty soft and that it moves well with your foot. It would have been awesome if the Kobe 4 Pro Throw also had the same cushion setup as the 5, but what you have with the Kobe 4 Pro Throw is an injected Phylon midsole. Doesn't seem like a very impressive cushion setup because there is no cushion, there isn't any full-length zoom or anything like that, but it is surprisingly comfy given that it is only injected Phylon. But once you break it in, it is such a smooth and comfy ride, and you do have that extra zoom in the heel if you're a heavy heel striker. Then the traction does make use of full-length herringbone, and it is super awesome, and the fit is also superb on the shoe as well. So there you have it, the Nike Kobe 4 in 5th place. Then for number 4, we have the Nike Kobe 9. The Nike Kobe 9 is definitely one of the fan favorites because it has the best traction of all time, or at least it's in the top 3 along with the Jordan 28 and the Jordan 1. But the traction on the Kobe 9 is definitely the stuff of legend because, any shoe any shoe that has good traction, people are gonna ask you like, is it a Kobe 9 level traction? So that just kind of lets you know how awesome the traction on the Kobe 9 is. Then for the cushion, you have a pretty comfy lunar long drop in midsole. And on the upper, once again, there were 3 different versions of the shoe. You had the engineered mesh low, you had the elite low, you had the elite high, and those used Flyknit. The Kobe 9 EM low is definitely my favorite, because you know the high is definitely way too high. Then the Kobe 9 Elite Low did have that first gen Flyknit, so it wasn't really perfect. It had a little bit of space to it, which made the Kobe 9 actually one of the only Kobes where you go down half a size. The materials are still pretty good though, and especially in the EM version, they just wrap around your foot nicely and are really nice and comfy while still feeling pretty minimal and lightweight. Then the only nitpick I have with the Kobe 9, and the only reason why it didn't make my personal top 3, is because of those plastic heel clips. This sort of plastic heel counter is very rigid, and it actually kind of makes it feel a little bit more clunky. And though it's not super clunky, it is a bit noticeable, especially when you compare it to the top 3 shoes on the list. So once again, we have the Kobe 9 with that GOAT traction at number 4. Then at number 3, we have my personal favorite, the Nike Kobe 8. I did do my best to be pretty objective because, you know, if I wasn't and I could have been biased, I would definitely put this number 1 all day. But I definitely thought long and hard about where to put it on the list. So at least in my opinion, it settles for number 3. Playing in the Nike Kobe 8 was just such a fun experience. You had that traction that's just absolutely amazing. The traction is almost at that Kobe 9 level, just maybe a slight notch below. You had that full length drop in lunar long midsole. You had an engineered mesh upper that was just kind of revolutionary at the time because it was so thin, lightweight, and breathable, but it also was pretty supportive and comfy as well. It's also definitely the lightest Kobe signature shoe from Nike, and this is just such a joy to play in. Like, I was really excited that they could have broad-road this Kobe 8, but of course the news broke, and you know, I've kind of just made peace with the decision, and I'm just happy that I do have a pair of Kobe 8s. So once again, I have the Kobe 8 third, and it's just an amazing shoe. Then for number 2, this was definitely a pretty hard decision as well. So at the second spot, or the runner-up, you have the Kobe 1 Pro Throw. The Kobe 1 Pro Throw has amazing traction, like you have this thick-ass herringbone, and because it's pretty thick, it's not only really grippy, but it's also super durable as well. The cushion on the Pro Throw was upgraded as well, so you have full-length Phylon and full-length Zoom Air. Full-length Zoom Air to this day is still my favorite cushion setup of all time, and when you really start playing and jumping around in the shoe, you can definitely feel that awesome bounciness, but given that, you know, the midsole is a little bit slimmed down, you also feel super low to the ground, quick, and responsive. The upper is also, in my opinion, my favorite from all of the Kobe signature shoes, because Flyknit is pretty nice and engineered mesh fits really well, but the Kobe 1 makes use of a full leather upper, and it's actually pretty nice and pretty premium leather, which is just really soft and wraps really nice around your foot. And the more that you play in these and the more that you break them in, they just fit so much better. And it's just an amazing shoe overall. Like, it's a shoe personally for me that has no weakness. Kobe 1 Pro Throw is overall just one of the best basketball shoes that you can buy. And the only reason why I put it at number 2 is because it's probably one of the heavier Kobes. But in the end, you don't really feel it that much, especially when you start playing. So once again, we have the runner-up, or in the second place, the Kobe 1. Then for the number 1 spot, we have the Nike Kobe 6 Pro Throw. The interesting thing about the Nike Kobe 6 Pro Throw is that even though they kind of beefed up the cushion with the Cushlon and 4-foot Zoom Turbo unit, the original Kobe 6 was still a beastly performance shoe, and it still would have ended up like in the top 3. But with this Pro Throw, like I said, they beefed up the cushion, and though it has the same exact setup as the Kobe 5 Pro Throw, they used a thicker Cushlon on the Kobe 6, and it just feels way more comfy, and you can definitely feel the Cushlon a lot more, and you can also feel the Zoom Turbo a lot more on the Kobe 6. The traction is also in the top 3 when you're talking about the Kobe signature shoes. It's just really aggressive and really grippy, and whether you're playing on a clean court or a dirty court or a poorly maintained court, you're gonna be covered, no problem. Then the upper on the Kobe 6 is one of the most polarizing in terms of the aesthetics, but it's also one of my favorite uppers on any Kobe shoe. Of course, the Kobe 1 had that premium leather, but if you want something a little bit more lightweight, a little more breathable, and a little lighter, the Kobe 6 was definitely an awesome way to go because you had that micro mesh that's just, you know, it moves well with your foot, it fits well. And you also had those scales on top, which add a lot of support and a lot of durability as well. The Kobe 8, the Kobe 5, and the Kobe 9 all had some sort of durability issue over time because the materials were super thin. But with that Kobe 6 upper, it really did kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone because it is super lightweight and also pretty durable as well. The fit is also amazing, and once you really break it in, and once that insole that molds to your foot does mold to your foot, you get one of the nicest custom 1-to-1 fits, and honestly, for my foot at least, this is the best fitting Kobe of all of them. So once again, just to recap, at number 1, we have the Nike Kobe 6 Pro Pro Throw. At number 2, we have the Kobe 1 Pro Throw. At number 3, we had the Kobe 8. At number 4, we had the Kobe 9. In 5th place, we had the Kobe 4. At 6th, we had the Kobe 5. 7th was the Kobe 11. 8th would be the Kobe 10. 9th was the Kobe 2. And in 10th place, we had the Kobe 3. And in 11th place, we had the Kobe 7. If I were to do a ranking though in terms of aesthetics, I would definitely go with the Kobe 3 last because it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. The Kobe 2 because I don't like how that strap looks around the ankle. Then in 9th for the aesthetics, I'd have the Kobe 10. Then in 8th, I'd have the Kobe 9. Then 7th would be the Kobe 6. In 6th place would be the Kobe 11. In 5th, you'd have the Kobe 1. In 4th, I have the Kobe 7. 3rd would be the Kobe 8, 2nd would be the Kobe 5, and in 1st place, I'd have the Kobe 4. So there you have it guys. Once again, congrats to Kobe Bryant on making it to the Basketball Hall of Fame. We all do really miss Kobe, but I guess we just have to live out that Mamba mentality in our own lives and just be the best we all can be. So there you have it guys. That was my ranking of all of the Nike Kobes from the Nike Kobe 1 to the Nike Kobe 11. You're always free to agree or disagree with my list because you know it is my personal list. So if you would rank them differently, just leave it in the comment section down below. And then if you haven't already yet, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon for notifications. It would help us out a lot. Here at Sneaks and Ball, PH.